Good morning and welcome to our Alto Insider, the first one of the year. Today, we're going to be kicking off with your questions answered. So from our last Alto Insider last year, you've been submitting a variety of questions. They've been coming in from the last session and through registrations on this one. So we're going to have a real focus on dealing with the question you submitted and what you want to know. We're also going to recap on our Alto integrations and a sneak peek at a coming soon. Alto Insider, this is our monthly webinar series. This is a chance for you to find out what's new in Alto, to learn a few tips and tricks, get your questions answered by our experts. We'll be reviewing old and new content of Alto to ensure you maximize the system. And talking of experts, I'm now going to hand over to James.
Too kind. Thank you, James. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for joining. My name is James Reason. I worked in a state agency for many years before joining Zoopla and then the Alto product team. So please do feel free to drop me an email so we can arrange a one-to-one Alto demonstration just to go through the system in more detail. So again, thank you all for the questions that have been submitted. We've selected a variety of questions here covering different topics that I'll be asking James as we go on. But we will have time at the end to ask James a couple more questions. So we encourage you to add questions into the chat as we go. And James, I will be adding in a couple of extra questions just to catch you off guard for those that do ask me during my day-to-day demos.
Adding on the pressure, adding on that pressure for me.
So James, let's kick off with the first question.
Brilliant.
So,
let's go.
Number one, can I group tenancies?
The answer here is yes. And the best way would be for me to go and showcase how we can do that. So let's go and dive into Alto. So if we want to group tenancies, we can head over to our tenancies section. And first off, for anybody that hasn't seen Alto before, this will take me into my most recent and my favorites. And for all those that are active users on the system, you'll be very familiar with where we are right now. Now we have got our groups, and there are already pre-selected groups set up for you when you get the system. And those will include a list of your active tenancies. Again, I can see I've got 932 here. I can start to segment that into my different branches or departments, but then we can see we've got these groups of managed, let only, and rent collection. Now, one of the simplest ways to go and group these tenancies will be by building a new group. A new group, you can start to name, give this group a description. You can start to choose what data you want within this group of tenancies, from branches to particular users' tenancies to active archive records, managed and non-managed. You can either just review these results, gives you a snapshot, or you can start to save this group over here on the left-hand side, and it will appear in your managed groups. And I can see I've got a group here of my managed tenancies. Sometimes there's a slightly more unique scenario that we need. So we can drop into a tenancy and we can start to give it a unique reference. So Mr. Singh here, if I drop into his tenancy and I go to the details section, I have a reference. I could pop that reference in and save. That reference will now appear on the top of the tenancy. What that gives me the ability to now do is I can now start searching for tenancies, whether that's on a particular street and find all those tenancies in a street or a town, but I can now start to search on those references. It will start to bring up all the tenancies that are related to that reference. So here you can see I've got my DSS, Mr. Singh, Foley, Mr. Turner. I might choose to go and search for all my student tenancies. Again, I've given them that unique reference. It pulls up that group. Again, it gives me the number. And I can also start to then target these audiences through letters and emails. Does that answer our question, James?
It does. That's brilliant. Thank you, James. Much appreciated. So going to go on to the second one here now. So is there a way to upload documents and share on property file through the property and not the tenancy?
Okay, so right now we don't have any plans to share documents via the property. So yes, you can upload your documents in media and other files where you can have copies of your EPCs and your gas safeties. In order to share those documents, they do need to be linked to the tenancy. So you would need to come into the tenancy. Again, we will just choose a random tenancy here. You'll need to upload those documents into the document sharing section and then choose if you wish to share those with the tenant or the landlord. So sharing is available, but it must be through the tenancy rather than property.
Okay, that's great. Thank you, James. Much appreciated on that one. So moving on to the next one, question 3. So do you provide support on how to build letter and email templates?
Okay, so for support, there's a number of areas that you can go. So we've recently set up the Alto Learning Hub. Those that aren't familiar with the Alto Learning Hub, you can sign into the Learning Hub and there's a variety of webinars, e-learning and videos. And through that Learning Hub, you can start to subscribe to those webinars, and there is content in there around creating letters and your system administration. We also have the Help Center within Alto and the chat. So in order to get help around those letters, I would drive you to either the Learning Hub or our Help Center. But creating letters can be quite a simplistic task once you get the know-how. So all of your master templates will live in your templates and admin section. And as I drive into my templates and admin section, I will get access to my letters. So here I can start to see my letters and my stationery. As I click into these, you can start to filter these by types of letter, letters that relate to particular branches, brands, or sale and rental letters. You have got the ability to create your own letters in this section as well, and they can be event-driven, such as I go and accept an offer, it will pop up the letters that are relevant for that part of the journey, or they can be ad hoc. I just choose when I go and produce this letter by going into whether it be a property, a contact, or a tenancy, and choosing a letter from my ad hoc list. But the question being around creating these, if I go and pop into a letter, that will open up the master template. And what I've got here is now the ability to start customizing this letter. And to customize a letter is simply, like we all used to, starting to type content, across the top, making bold, underline, and then we have this middle section of configuration. And this is where you can pigeonhole it to certain branches, brands, and choose what stationery or letterhead this will live on. As I do that, that will start to give me a preview of what this letter will now look like. But the most important part of any of these letters is being able to merge information, whether that be from the property, the contact, or the tenancy. So in order to do that, we've now just put this small widget at the top here, where you can click on merge tags and you can start to search for the information you'd like to merge into this document. So I may choose to merge the owner name. All I need to do is just type into that box and it will present with all the merge tags that have owner name in them. It will give me a description of what that relates to, and I can just select that and it will populate that merge tag for me. So by coming into this template section and opening a letter, you can start to change the look and feel of this letter. You can start to change where this produces, where it relates to, the branding, and start to merge your content. You can name your letter, and anything that you name here, when you send this letter out, that's what it will send as an attachment. So mine will go as an AST e-sign. If you're happy with your letter, you can save or you can exit out of here. But ultimately, there is support on letters. There is support through our Learning Hub, our help centres, and our support teams.
Brilliant. Thanks, James. That's great. Super informative on that one. Obviously, nice demonstration how to do that. So I'm just going to move on to the next one, if that's okay with you. So question 4, is there a way of saving Outlook emails to the tenancy or landlord card without having to convert it to a PDF?
Okay, so if we want to save emails, and I'm going to go into a record, of course, someone mentioned about saving it as a PDF, which you could do, and you could go and upload that file or drag that file. You can save into the timeline, but as Alto is a cloud-based product, it won't want any HTML content in there. So you can copy and paste your content in here. You just need to make sure that you've got no like semicolons within there. So they're like the 2 arrows that sit either side of the email address. So anything that relates to HTML code. So if you're just copying the body of that email and the text, absolutely fine to copy that into the notes section. But if it does throw up an error, That's because you've got HTML code such as your colons or coding from where the email address lives.
Brilliant. Thanks, James. Question 5. So is it possible to create a group for active tenancies or contacts only?
Okay, so we did speak earlier about creating those tenancy groups. And again, just to kind of recap on that, you can come into tenancies and groups and build your group out. You can add your unique reference, which you can then search on. But you can start to create groups as well in contacts. So if I pop into my contacts, here I'm presented with everybody on the system, whether that be my plumbers, my vendors, my landlords. We can see we're in Liz Truss at the moment. She's a landlord, she's an applicant, she's a potential tenant. We've got all these different relationships with Liz. If I head into my groups, I can then start to build a group. Now, again, just for a bit of clarity here, I'm building this group as my groups, which means it's only available for me. As I log into my database on my Alto system, only I see that group. It's pulling data from the company's CRL or Alto database, but only I'm going to be able to action and see this group. So as I come in, I can start to build groups on tenants by selecting the tenants feature, and anybody that meets that criteria will pop into that group. I can start to build groups by potential vendors and landlords. And you can see I've got all these different actions here, such as their disposals, the type of category they sit in, the branch they relate to. I can grade and rate these people. I can build groups on where they inquired or where their inquiry started, as well as requirement notes, match areas, applicant, financial information, and dates. When did we last speak to them? People that we haven't spoken to. There is one unique requirement here, again, which is really useful. And I kind of link it back to like our reference in tenancy. You've got these search notes. So in a contact, as I go and click into a particular contact, I can start to see those relationships, which I can build those groups by, but we have a note section. So anything that's added in this note section here, I can again go in, build a group based on something that's written in that note, and it will find all the people again that meet that criteria. So it's just, again, just that unique way of adding content that's unique to whether it's your business or your processes, and to be able to find those people and group them together. I'm just going to add, again, a further section here that we just recap on similar principle on tenancies, but we've also got properties as well. So we can come into property groups, can build the same again, my groups. And as we build property groups, we can build those based on type of status property, branch, details, properties that are managed, let, and again, that date section. But just like our tenancy ref that we just recapped on, just like our unique notes section in a contact, we have the same in property. So if I go into Hazelbury Gardens, as an example, I have a section here for user code. I could type something in here. I could use user code 2, and this is numerical. And I could then again build those groups based on that user code 1 or user code 2. Again, getting unique data to me. I mentioned about the groups being my groups. You also got the ability in the templates and admin section to go in and build these groups out, that they can be either office groups seen by a particular department, or shared groups where they can be seen by the whole company. So rather than everybody building their own individual group, they can actually build this at company level. It's available to everybody in that company, or branch level. It's available to everybody in that branch.
Brilliant.
Slightly elaborated on that question there, but
no, that's
yes,
good.
Really useful in the market to target audiences, and win more stock and manage your applicants and manage your vendors and your landlords.
Brilliant. Brilliant. More than answers that question. So thank you very much, James. So going to move on to the next one now. Question 6. So can you make appointments on your mobile?
Okay, so the mobile diary at the moment, we've only recently released this. So mobile diary, if you take a mobile device, log in on that mobile device, it will present to you at this moment in time your calendar. You'll be able to click into those appointments. You'll be able to call, email, click on Google Maps. You'll be able to, again, see whether that's a day view or summary view, or you can start clicking into individual days. Also in that mobile diary, you can click in and you can search your contacts. anybody across that contact database, whether that's solicitors, suppliers, vendors, applicants, landlords. You can't, which is the question, currently go and add any content from the mobile diary. It needs to be added in the Alto core system. But we have got lots of development plans for the Alto mobile across the year, starting with things like sharing other colleagues' calendars and then looking at how that evolves and looking at the data that can be added into it. And we're always looking for feedback from agents. So submit that, tell us what your experience is like on Alto mobile. We'll get that across to our teams and we'll look at what improvements are necessary and what we need. So yeah, look out for further developments. We will keep you posted. We will roll those out in our Alto Insider future webinars.
Brilliant. Watch this space, definitely. Thanks, James. So is there a way to view the whole diary on the mobile device to see all appointments? Again, relating to the mobile functionality.
So I probably answered that in the last question, but the answer is I can go into that diary. It'll present me with a summary view. So like I'm looking at here, what's happening for my day, and I can scroll through those. Or like I can here, I can start to open up the calendar view and I can click into different days and start to see all of those different days. Right now, though, it's my diary that it's looking at.
Okay.
But look out for future updates when you might start seeing colleague diaries and so on.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Thanks, James. Again, relating back to letters, I know obviously we touched on it earlier, but can we create bespoke letters in Alto?
We can. I know we touched on it earlier, but I said I'll draw you back to that templates and admin section. Letters can only be created by those that have the correct role. So not everybody can come in here and start creating letters. And if all your staff have the ability to come in and create master templates, do submit a ticket into support and we can show you how to close that down. Only giving them the function of creating letters against a property or a contact, rather than overwriting and constantly changing those master copies. But in the actions section, you can create letter templates and you can start to decide whether that letter template is event-driven, such as I want to build it as part of a process. When X happens, these letters populate, or do I want my letter as just an ad hoc letter? I go into a property, a contact tenancy, I find it from a list of letters and I go and produce it. With our new letter template editor, you've now also got the ability to also bring in images as well and HTML links.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Just obviously looking and aware at the time, perhaps we've got time for one more question from here. So
yeah.
Just looking at this now, how do we set up cams in Alto?
Okay, as I know we are running short on time at the moment, but if you head over to our Alto Help Center, there is a variety of articles in here on setting up your cams integration. We've recently updated our integration to work with the new Microsoft authorization process. Here you're given a step-by-step guide setting up cams, and there's two options of obviously prior to switching to the new auth or using the new authorization services. So like I say, if you just pop into Alto, open up the help center as we've done here, and you can see I've just typed in cams, if I can spell it, of course, and that will present you with the guide on how to go and set that up. But what cams will do for anybody using Exchange integration, that will allow your emails to be sent from Alto, but those replies to also then come back in. So I can start to see I've got a number of replies. I can click into these and I can start to action that reply. So I can start to see the whole thread, what was sent, what was replied, and I can then reply to that, and that will log on to the timeline.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Well, that sees us up to about the time really there, James. Thanks for all those, obviously super informative, and obviously gives everyone a good insight into a couple of those questions. So that's fantastic. So obviously throughout that, obviously discussing the way that we can group tenancies. I know you went into depth in that in terms of sort of like tenancies, and that was super informative. So thank you. Also into the letters again, which is great, and I'm sure that gives everyone a good insight. Obviously, throughout that, everyone was submitting their questions, James, which is great to see. Whilst I'm going through some of those questions and actually picking out some that we can ask you, I'm just going to hand back to you for a little bit, if that's okay, just so you can go through some of those recent integrations that we're seeing.
Yeah, absolutely fine. So anybody that was on our last Alto Insider webinar would have seen our integration with both Vouch and Smart Search. If you haven't, then I'll explain how you can go inquire about that and get that, whether that be integrated into the Alto system or go and submit a query into these providers, discuss commercials, setting up accounts and getting integrations. But we have got live our Alto integration with Vouch, simplifying tenant references, get the results back in Alto. You can carry the data such as the landlord, tenancy information, tenant information and guarantor information from Alto into the Vouch platform by clicking singular button from the progression. Vouch also provide rent protection insurance. It reduces your manual data entry. And again, you can earn commission through that Vouch integration. We've also got our Smart Search integration now live. And again, similar to Vouch, simple click from the contact record to go and carry out an AML check, anti-money laundering check. Again, quick, easy, improves your compliance, saves you having to duplicate data across two systems. And those results from that AML check will come back into Alto and it will provide you with the report in the system. I won't showcase that today as we did cover it in the last Alto Insider, but reach out to us if you'd like to see more on that or start inquiring about how you can get those integrations set up. Of course, we do have a coming soon. So anybody that was reading, whether it be Property Industry Eye or Estate Today, already have a heads up on this. But we've got some great news that we now have our new integration coming with Goodlord. Goodlord is the only integrated lettings platform in the property market right now. Can reduce your administration time for new tenancies by up to 70% per let. You'll never miss a compliance step. And again, an opportunity to generate more revenue and commission streams. So anybody that's interested in whether registering your interest for Goodlord or taking up our current integrations for AML or referencing, if you head into the Alto system and we've got a section, I'm just going to refresh my system, but I've just got a section here under tool, under templates and admin for integrations. If you head into our integration section, that will show you our current integrations that we've got set up, and you can start to register your interest for Goodlord and also submit queries for the AML and the referencing. We will bring you more information on our Goodlord integration in future Alto Insider webinars.
Exciting times. Be sure to look out for that one, James. So just going through a couple of the questions in the in the chat now. So if it's okay, James, I'm just going to fire a couple at you. We got one coming in from Simon here. So when a tenant reports a maintenance issue in property file, how do they do it and how does it appear in Alto? So relating to property file on this one.
So if I'm a tenant and I've been given access by the agent, I'll be able to log into property file. This will have the agent's branding, agent's colors. So as far as the tenant is aware, they're logging onto the platform here that relates to that particular agent. They will start to see things like how long they've got remaining on their tenancy, any current maintenance issues. They can start to see the agent's contact details in here. They can start to view their tenancy and what they've been billed and what they've paid and their current balance. But they can start to report a maintenance issue direct from here, or they can download the app, the property file app. If I log in as a tenant and I go to report an issue, I'm presented with a variety of reporting issues. I can start to select these. I can start to then work through what issue relates to. I can add content and I can upload images and I can then start to submit that. That will now start to log on my dashboard as a tenant, showing me I've now got 2 maintenance issues. But for the agent, that will now start coming direct into the system. So I head into my property management dashboard within Alto, where I'm going to find all my current rents, all of my compliance that I'm managing. I'm also going to start to find my works orders, and that will now come into my unacknowledged jobs. I won't go into much more detail on that right now and how that works and how we action those. It's something we're going to pick up in our next Alto Insider next month.
Brilliant. Okay, Simon, I hope that answered that for you. Going to come on to the second one here, James. So Jane submitted a question. So relating to Alto's e-sign functionality, can you make any document e-signable in Alto?
Okay, so when it comes to eSign, the merge tags we currently have available, and again, I refer back to where we were showing the letters earlier and how you can implement those merge tags. If you pop in there and open up that merge tag selector and pop in eSign, it will present you with merge tags for a guarantor to sign, tenant to sign, a landlord, or a vendor. So as long as they're one of those contacts, they're the people that can sign records. So an example, my vendors, I might send out my terms of business for them to sign. I might go and send them a brochure and send them a follow-up e-sign to sign that brochure off. On the landlord side, again, it might be my terms of business. It might be a renewal document for both my landlord, tenant, and guarantors. I might start to produce ASTs, and I can link all three of those merge tags to the document, where it will then send to all the parties, capture all the signatures. It will send from Alto. It will track who it's been sent to. And again, that will be tracked on the main dashboard, where I can start to come in and I can start to see all these signatures that I've currently got completed, signed within a period of time. But when that has been signed, that will bring that back into the system. So like I say, from this dashboard, I can see what's been sent, what reminders got out, what types of documents I've sent for e-sign, and where that currently is in the journey. Who signed it, who are we waiting signature on, who are we chasing? Lots of articles and guides again. If I draw your attention to our help center, or start submitting some chats into our support teams, getting this set up.
Brilliant. Thanks again for that question, Jane. So it's okay, James. I'm going to come on to a last question here. So Gareth, and this is coming from someone who deals with student lets, actually, James. So with student lets, he wants to know if you can bill the tenants individually, and if you can then track that throughout the tenancy.
Right, so there is a lot of flexibility with how we set up these charges for students and then how we monitor and analyze that. So I'm going to head into my tenancies. Of course, I need to go and find a student let. So the simplest way for me to do that is go and look for my student lets, because I've used that R reference to group these. And I can see down the bottom here, I've got a tenancy, which is 3 Student Let Lane. Currently a variety of students in here. I've got 5 students. Now, these students are all paying individual rents. They're all paying at different frequencies with different amounts. So what I've got the ability to do is, under actions and charge, where I start to find my rent schedules, I can start to set up unique rents. You can see here I've got a 4 weekly rent that's for student 4. I can see the next rent that's due and the amount they pay. I've also got a sundry amount that comes in from the students here for some car parking at a different amount. And again, I've got rents for student 3, 5, 1 as well. Now, I can add a charge, and I can start to say, what is the frequency of that rent? What date will that be due? What am I going to charge this tenant? Is it income across a variety of aspects here? Is it a deposit, fees, or expenses? As I choose what I want to charge, I can also choose who I'm going to charge. So would I like to charge it across the whole tenancy? Or would I actually like to allocate this to an individual tenant? I can also start setting things like reminders. So actually, I also want to produce a document for this tenant and remind them 10 days before that rent is due. So it will send out an email or a rent demand to them, and they can start to see how they pay, what reference they pay with. And as well as that, I can show their current balance back in the tenancy for any outstanding money that's owed or any money on account. But if I set it up in this way, where I link these individual charges to tenants, I can start to analyze that. So I can pop into my transactions here, and I can start to filter this on what do all the tenants owe. I can break that down to what's outstanding only, or I can start to actually look at individual tenants and what their liability is, what they've paid, and what we've charged them. So hopefully that answers our question there on being able to analyze and create individual charges.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, thanks again, Gareth, for submitting that one in. That's brilliant. So I think that's probably what we got time for on that on those questions there, James. So yeah, thank you very much for answering all those in great depth. It's much appreciated.
It is. And again, we look forward to seeing everybody on our next session. Our next session on 28th of February at 10:30. We're going to focus on property file. We're going to focus on client accounting, give a little bit of an insight into those today. Don't forget, you've got your learning hub and access to support, and our contact details are below. So we look forward to seeing you on the next session, and wish you a very good day. Thank you very much.